Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 142. And it is about why it's so hard to do the things you actually like doing. But first, tiny updates. I'm recording this on, what the hell is today? Wednesday? July 9th. Yep. So it's been about 5 days since I got bit by a copperhead, and I'm recovering pretty well. I still have to stay off of it for 30 days. And the reason that I have to stay off of it for 30 days, because everyone's like, 30 days sounds like a lot. Like, why can't you just walk on it once the swelling goes down? That was my question too. And the answer to that is because the way snake venom works on living tissue is that it liquefies it, for lack of a better word. It explodes cell membranes, including proteins. So even though the swelling is going to go down in a few more days, it's still badly damaged. And even if it didn't hurt, which it doesn't, like, I'm not in pain most of the time, but it's probably not a good idea to walk on damaged tissue with 165 pounds of American on top of that tissue. So that's my sermon. A doctor did not tell me this, but I spoke with my resident snake expert. Shout out to Casey Highland for nerding out with me on snake venom. And this is what I've come to. So I just thought that was so interesting. Horrifying, but also interesting. As of this recording, I'll be flying to the Irish Aerial Dance Festival tomorrow. I have a SSR, that's Special Service Request. That's those people that wait with a wheelchair in the, whatever that word is for the hallway that you walk in and out of planes onto. I don't know. Anyway, there'll be a wheelchair waiting for me between flights, and yeah, we've done everything we can to make sure that I have the accommodations that I need. I'm sure it'll be a trip. I'll tell you about it in a couple of weeks when I'm back. Okay, so let's get on to the main event. This podcast was requested by my friend Chris. She wrote me on Instagram and said, "Can you do a podcast about this?" And it was a link. The link goes to like a screenshot of a thread. I'll read it to you. I'll also put a link to it in the show notes if you want to read it for yourself. But the post reads the following. "It's so shitty when you have to convince yourself to do your hobbies. Like, it's fun. You like it. Why can't you just do it? Do it. Do it. But what if mindless media consumption instead?" The follow-up sentence is, "I'm so sorry to the 7,000 of you so far who relate." So let's talk about it. Mindless media consumption is a thing. I don't think it used to be a thing, maybe 30 years ago, but I guess TV's been a thing for longer than that, but I'm mostly, come on, we're talking about phones. We could also be talking about Netflix binges. So any kind of mindless media consumption, something that me and Manflesh refer to as nothing box. And it's when you just want your brain to be activated by something that requires no effort, and you can just like chill and absorb whatever. And I mean, how much do we actually remember of the shows that we watch and binge? And how much do we remember of the scrolling on our phones? And by the way, I'm not trying to diminish the efficacy of either of these things. Like, I do both of those things all the time. And I find them massively enjoyable. Okay, maybe not massively. Pleasant. Will we say that? Pleasant. It's pleasant. Except the scrolling can sometimes get very unpleasant. You all know what I'm talking about. None of this is news. We all know all of this already. But the problem is that what we really want to be doing is like a fun hobby or engaging in our arts practice or something else that brings us joy or pleasure, but we find ourselves doing passive media consumption instead. And the reason that it's, well, one, it's just physically easier. It's so much easier to do mindless media consumption. It's passive. So yeah, it's easier because it's actually easier. And this is also very much in line with why addiction is so prevalent, and it's because it is the same thing. It's dopamine, right? Dopamine is a reward chemical in the brain, feels good. It was designed so that we would be able to remember where we found berries. Okay, let's say you're ancient human looking for grub. You're like, ooh, a whole patch of berries. Then you get a surge of dopamine to your brain and it makes you happy. And it's so that you can remember where that patch of berries is, because that happy chemical will leave a mark in your brain. And then you can find more berries and survive for longer. Well, we don't find berries so often in the wild anymore. We go to the grocery store and buy them. But dopamine is more plentiful than ever because there's lots of ways that you can get it, including nicotine and alcohol and other drugs and your phone and Netflix. So in the context of how it was designed to be used, it's still being used, but we don't really need it for survival so much. We're mostly just coping and trying to be comfortable most of the time in a very uncomfortable world, which is a pretty comfortable world, actually. But the events make it quite uncomfortable. I'm going to say mattresses have improved in their quality many, many times over. So we probably have a comfy bed, but we don't have a comfy world because of the events that we're living in. So yeah, we would like some dopamine, please. And look, it's everywhere. Netflix, phone, Instagram, yay, dopamine. And dopamine is a fairly passive pleasure, okay? Addiction is passive pleasure. That's why it's so hard to break and so easy to form. You don't have to do anything. You want to feel happy for a second? Take a drag off that vape. Ugh, don't I know it? Oh, look, you can take another one 30 seconds later. You want to feel happy with no work or effort on your part at all? Netflix is here for you, baby. There's the aircon kicking on there. Sorry about the background noise. Not going to turn it off. It's like 95 outside. But here's where I think things get sticky. We have a lot of self-judgment against ourselves for seeking out dopamine, particularly in these addictive patterns. Like you didn't even make the conscious decision to bring out your phone and start scrolling. You just did it. And then we judge ourselves for that. Like it's a moral failing. But what I want to point out is that it's literally how you were designed. Like it's not a moral failing. You are behaving as designed. The people who create addictive apps like Instagram and TikTok know this. It is the thing that they built their entire business model on. It's supposed to be addictive. Everything is working as intended, right? But we know something's wrong. We're like, I don't like how much time I spend doing these things. I wanted to go make a piece of art. And the thing I did instead was I watched every available episode of Downton Abbey for the third time. So that's just you working exactly as you were designed to work. Passively, right? Now, we do have free will, and that means that we can choose something else. And the reason that it's hard is because it's literally harder. And living organisms conserve energy. That is the name of the game in survival. It's like, how can I expend the least amount of effort and energy to remain alive? Making art is a very human endeavor, but it's not like it isn't expensive energetically. It's certainly a lot more expensive energetically than sitting on the couch and mindless media consumption. So that's the why. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. This is just a thing. Now, other brain chemicals like oxytocin require a little bit more effort. That's like the loving, intimate brain chemical, like mamas cuddling their babies, or like cuddling your partner or a best friend. And that does indeed take more effort. And the reward is different as well. Now, I'm not well versed enough in brain chemicals to tell you exactly what kind of chemical gets released when you engage in an activity that you chose, like art making or even a fun hobby. But I do know that choosing to engage in those activities requires us to go further than I'll call it, our most fundamental basic bitch programming. Because basic bitch programming, and I don't mean that pejoratively, it's just basic. It's basic. Moving beyond that requires an active choice. Mindless media consumption does not require an active choice. It's basically a default. So it does take energy to move past a default into a conscious choice, which is why it's always going to be easier to scroll on your phone rather than to create your one-woman show. And I think the first step here is just awareness. Like, just knowing this is how you're designed. It will require an active choice from you to do something differently, so that you can stop thinking it's a moral failing on your part that you just end up on your phone. That's just your brain working as designed, wanting what it wants. And once we're aware of this, then it becomes somewhat easier to make that active choice, because we realize it should require effort. And I want to push this a little bit further by talking about the relationship between oxytocin and cortisol. Cortisol is released in response to stress. And ideally, cortisol and oxytocin relate together in the brain to keep you at a balanced state. Like, cortisol prepares you to deal with a stressful situation, and it doesn't always, but it can suppress the release of oxytocin, because your body wants you to deal with the stressful situation, not sit there smiling at the stars. Makes sense. And this can become really problematic if you have stress that just doesn't stop. Because chronic stress and chronically high levels of cortisol can affect your oxytocin levels in ways that are really undesirable. And where I see this come up a lot is in the sexual response of people in female bodies. Most notably, women who have been in a stressful situation for a long time, and their sex drive just goes out the window. They're like, I don't even remember what it was like to feel physical desire. And they assume something is wrong with them. They're like, why don't I want sex? And they're like, well, you're afraid of your partner, perhaps. And the way, this is very, very basic, okay? But the way that the female reproductive system, the female sexual response was designed, it was designed to function in a safe environment. So many factors can influence this, of course. But consider if this is happening to you and you're like, where's my sexual response? It is gone. If it is gone, it is perhaps gone because you do not have any sense of safety. And perhaps your oxytocin has been massively disrupted because you don't have a sense of safety, or because you're always on high alert. Now, to really dive deeply into this, I would need to bring on an expert, which I'd really like to do, by the way. If anyone knows someone who can speak on this in detail, I'd really like to talk to them, because this is an issue that doesn't get spoken about much, but it certainly gets experienced a lot. As we were designed to work within a certain number of parameters, right? And a lot of people are living lives of constant stress and danger. And even if we're not actively in danger, we're aware of things happening beyond our control. The horrors persist. And that's going to have an effect on us. And if you're ever wondering, gee, like, what would it be like if my body was just like able to work as intended? Well, think of someone that you know. Hopefully you know someone who is resourced, who has their needs met. Doesn't mean they're happy all the time. Obviously, that's not a thing. But someone who is resourced, who's safe, and who has their needs met and is confident that their needs will continue to be met. What are they like? If they're an artist, they're probably making work. This is why that whole axiom of the starving, tortured artist is such a dangerous trope, in my opinion. Because people are afraid that if they allow themselves to be happy and well cared for and have their needs met, then they won't be inspired to make art. But consider the way that you were built, the way that you were designed, means that if you did have your needs met and you did feel safe, you would probably be making art. You would be, that part of yourself would be a lot more accessible to you. Funny how that got mixed up, isn't it? All right, my friends, I'm going to keep these episodes for the next couple weeks a little bit shorter because I have to record like 3 of them in one day. Didn't want that to happen, but then I got bit by a copperhead snake. So what you going to do? They're going to be a little bit shorter. Thank you for your patience. And thank you to Chris for sending me that post. The link to the original sort of meme or whatever is in the show notes. If you have requests for future episodes, you can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon. It couldn't exist and it wouldn't exist without the people who stand up next to me. So thank you so much for your support, and thank you for believing in me, and thank you for trusting me. This could not exist without you. Until next time, friends, I hope you have all the yummy brain chemicals and aren't giving yourself a hard time on which ones you choose to consume. And don't go back to sleep.